Thanks. Good morning. I'm Ian Gandel, Chair of Alkane Resources, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this year's annual general meeting of our company. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I also extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Islander peoples here today. I'm joined here in Perth by my fellow board directors, Nick Erner, Ian Chalmers, Gavin Smith and Tony Lethlean. Also in attendance are Dennis Wilkins, Joint Company Secretary, Julia Beckett, Joint Company Secretary, James Carter and Helen Bathurst of the auditor firm PricewaterhouseCoopers. Mr. Julio Balla from Automic, the company's share registry, is also in attendance and will be the returning officer for the purpose of the conduct of the voting poll at the end of the meeting. The formalities of today will follow the common format for AGMs. Voting will be conducted by way of a poll on all items of business, and a polling card should have been provided to you on entry today. If you have lodged your votes by submitting by proxy voting prior to the start of this meeting, and you'd like your proxy votes to stand, you do not need to take any further action. Completed polling cards will be collected by the representative of the share registry at the conclusion of the meeting, and voting results will be posted on the ASX announcements platform later today. There will be an opportunity to ask questions on today's business after all resolutions have been put to the meeting. I will also address any written questions submitted by email from those that were unable to be present in the room today. All questions will be addressed prior to the conduct of the poll. As a quorum is present, I declare the meeting open. The proxies received for each item of business are now displayed on the screen. I inform shareholders that the minutes from last year's meeting have been adopted as a correct record of the proceedings at that meeting. The minutes of the previous meeting are available for inspection. Should any shareholders wish to do so, please contact me after the meeting. I will now move on to the business of today's meeting. The first item of business is consideration of the financial report for the year ended 30th of June 2024, which is now tabled. The auditor, Helen Bathurst of PwC, will be available to respond to any questions on the financial statements or on the conduct of the audit during question time. We will now proceed to consider the proposed resolutions on today's agenda. Resolution 1, Adoption of the Remuneration Report. The first resolution is the adoption of the Remuneration Report. This resolution is set out in the notice of meeting and as displayed on the screen, along with proxy votes received on this resolution. I now put the resolution to the meeting and will move to the next item of business, which is the re-election of Director Mr. Tony Lethlean. Resolution 2 relates to the re-election of Mr. Tony Lethlean as a Director. This resolution is as set out in the notice of meeting and as displayed on the screen, along with the proxy votes received on the resolution. I now put the resolution to the meeting and move to the next item of business, which is the approval of the grant of performance rights to the Managing Director. This resolution is as set out in the notice of meeting and as displayed on the screen, along with the proxy votes received on this resolution. I now put this resolution to the meeting and move to the next item of business, which is the approval of the grant of performance rights to the Technical Director, Mr. Ian Chalmers. This resolution is as set out in the notice of meeting and as displayed on the screen, along with the proxy votes received on this resolution. I now put the resolution to the meeting and move to the next item of business, which is Resolution 5, the approval of the grant of restricted performance rights to the Managing Director. This resolution is set out in the notice of meeting and as displayed on the screen, along with the proxy votes received on this resolution. I now put this resolution to the meeting and move to the next item of business, which is the approval of the grant of restricted performance rights to the Technical Director, Mr. Ian Chalmers. This resolution is set out in the notice of meeting and as displayed on the screen, along with the proxy votes received on this resolution. I now put this resolution to the meeting and move to the next item of business, which is the approval of potential termination benefits. This resolution is set out in the notice of meeting and as displayed on the screen, along with the proxy votes received on this resolution. I now put this resolution to the meeting and move to the next item of business, which is the Alkane Resources Performance Rights Plan. This resolution is as set out in the notice of meeting and as displayed on the screen, along with the proxy votes received on this resolution. I now put this resolution to the meeting and move to the next item of business, which is the election of Director self-nominated candidate. In accordance with the company's constitution, an external non-board endorsed candidate, Mr. Jeffrey Knight, has nominated for election. The board, supported by the nomination committee, reviews the size and composition of the board, having regard to the board's skill matrix and the objective that the board comprise a mix of skills, expertise and experience and diversity required for the board to discharge its obligations effectively. The board is satisfied that the current composition of the board aligns with Alkane's strategic objectives and enables it to govern effectively on behalf of shareholders in the best interests of the company. The board has carefully considered the self-nominated candidate. However, for reasons set out in the notice of meeting, the board does not support the election of Mr. Knight. This resolution, as set out in the notice of meeting and as displayed on the screen along with the proxy votes received on this resolution. I now put the resolution to the meeting and move to the next item of business, which is the amendment to the terms of the affected performance rights. This resolution is set out in the addendum to the notice of meeting and as displayed on the screen, along with the proxy votes received on this resolution. I now put this resolution to the meeting. So thank you. That covers all of the business for this meeting and all resolutions have been put to the meeting and we can move to question time. Firstly, to those present in the room, are there any questions of the board on any item of business or the auditor on the financial statements or the conduct of the audit? Yes, Mr. Swan?
Graham Swan, question to the board and I guess also to the auditor with regard to the disclosure in the financials. Sorry, it's a question with regard to the disclosure in the financials with regard to the proceeds on the sale of Genesis and the profit on the sale of those shares compared with, say, the profit and loss on the sale of the Calidus investments. I just think in note 8 we say that the proceeds from the sale of Genesis was some 13 odd million, and we say that The cost of Calidus was 19 odd million, and it's not clear what the actual profit on the sale of Genesis was.
I might pass that. Is Jen?
I think, Graham, the easiest way to think about it is...
So do you want to grab the microphone, Jim? So
Yeah,
sorry. I think the simple way that we think about it as commercial people, and I agree with you, some of the accounting is unclear. It's because some profit was recognised in the year before. But the simple way is that we put about $19 million into Genesis, cash, and when we exited, our total proceeds were about $75 million. So from a cash perspective, the net was $55 million. So that's spread over a couple of financial years. And the profit is, some of it is in financial year 24, and some of it was in the year before as well. It gets a little bit complicated. Maybe I can take it offline and try to explain how some of these investments, especially when we're close to the 20% mark, every time there's a movement up and down in our value of investment or sell, doesn't necessarily go to the P&L. It sits in a reserve account. But I think that most people think about it from a cash perspective, that, you know, we put about 19 million in, and when we sold out, it was about 75. So net cash to the company was about $55 million. I know you're looking a little perplexed there, but if you want to take this one offline, we can talk about it a bit further if you like.
Well, I think you've summed it up quite clearly, that the disclosure in the financials doesn't indicate how much cash you put into those investments and how much cash came out and what the profit was. And I think AASB 1 paragraph 97, to be technical, would probably ask that disclosure be in the financials.
Let's make them clearer.
That'd be great.
Excellent. Do the auditors have any comment on that? No. Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Thank you. So, Dennis, do we have any written questions from shareholders?
None, Mr. Chairman.
None. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. As all questions have now been addressed, we can now conduct the poll. As mentioned earlier, if you'd like your proxy votes to stand, you do not need to take any further action. If you have not lodged a proxy vote and wish to have your vote counted, or you wish to amend your proxy vote already lodged, please complete your polling card and hand it to the Automic staff acting as the returning officer for today's meeting. So if we can collect the polling cards. So I haven't filled mine out, but in favour of everything I can. Good. Thanks. Thank you. I now declare the formal part of today's meeting closed, and thank you for your participation. The results of the poll will be released on the ASX later today.